Hello, everybody. Welcome back. If you have rejoined us from the session that we just had a short while ago, very welcome to have you with us again, or welcome for the first time if it's the first session that you joined today. This is the second and final session of the Retail Bulletin's comeback for 2023, kicking off our brand new calendar for the year ahead with some fantastic panels. And I hope if you did see this morning's panel so far that you really enjoyed it, and I've got no doubt that you're going to enjoy this one just as much. This is session 2, maximising the close connection between channels and putting customer needs at heart. As always, we run these events for you, and in a moment I'll be talking about how you as the audience should and could please get involved with the content that we're going to be talking about over the next 45 to 60 minutes. I'm Darren Williams. I'm the Global Head of Leasing at Impress. Impress is the world's leading orthodontics chain based in Barcelona, our headquarters, but rolling out across 8 different countries right now. And in the UK, significant rollout in the UK, already up to 9 clinics with more being built this year. But we trade and have clinics throughout Europe and also the United States as well. And delighted to be hosting this session over the next hour or so. I'm trying to dodge the sunshine on my face. If you see me moving around, I'm loving the sun, but it keeps putting a line down the middle. So apologies for appearing to be a big fidget. I'm going to ask these fantastic people on the screen with me to introduce themselves. And then we'll jump into the content once I have a chat with you guys and the audience about how to be involved. So without further ado, Marina, I'm going to come to you first, if I may. Good morning. Tell us about you.
Morning, everyone. I'm Marina, Ecom Director for The Edit London. The Edit London is a global marketplace for high-end, hard-to-get sneakers, streetwear and collectibles. I've been with the company from the very start and have witnessed and been a part of the amazing growth in the last 3 years.
Amazing growth indeed. You guys have had quite the story. Yeah, brilliant brand and brilliant person to have with us. So thank you for joining us this morning, Marina. I really appreciate it. Andrew, hello. Tell us about you, sir.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So I'm Andrew Goodacre. I'm Chief Executive for BIRA, which stands for the British Independent Retailers Association. As the name suggests, we represent independent retailers, generally non-food, and our membership ranges from a small pet shop to an independent department store. We have about 3,000 members throughout the UK.
Excellent. Well, brilliant to have you with us as well. And you'll have, I'm sure, lots of insight being with your finger on the pulse with such a wide variety of retailers that you work with as well. Mark, tell us about you, sir.
Hello, everyone. Good morning from London. This is Mark. I'm the Group Digital Director for Kingfisher. And Kingfisher, first of all, we are not a beer brand in India, but we are one of the largest home improvement retailers worldwide that operates across some very well-known brands such as B&Q, Screwfix, or Castorama. A pleasure to be here with you today, guys.
Pleasure to meet you, sir, and thank you for that clarity. Although I'm sure the beer is delicious, and I have had one actually, but yeah, we appreciate that clarity at the beginning. Thank you very much indeed, and good to have you with us. Christian, hello, from Down Under, Christian.
Yes, hello, good morning or good evening from my neck of the woods. So I'm joining you live from Sydney, where it's a lovely, warm and balmy night. My name's Christian McKelvey. I was head of marketplace for catch.com.au. So catch.com.au was, and still is, one of Australia's largest online marketplaces. As a company, it's been around for 15 years. For the last 5 years, it pivoted to become a first-party and third-party marketplace. My involvement there was originally in the startup mentality, doing a few jack-of-all-trades roles before taking on the head of marketplace role and evolving it strategically and operationally to become a more mature and enterprise level markets. Fantastic to see you all today.
Fantastic to see you all. Sydney this time of year is just wonderful. Yeah, February was one of my favourite months when I used to work down under. It's just a really nice time there. So I'm not jealous at all. Okay, just pretending. But we do have February sunshine in London today, so we're doing pretty well. Helene, thank you for waiting so patiently. Tell us about you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm joining from Hamburg, Germany, not as sunny as in London, I would say. So I'm Helena Carr, and I'm part of the pet nutrition segment within Mars. Our mission is to provide a better world for pets and pet parents around the globe. We are a very purpose-driven company for sure, and we do have brands like Whiskas, Pedigree, Jane's Well Beloved, Sheba, and there are many others. I'm the Global Real-Time Performance Director, and I'm super happy to be here.
What a global gang we are this morning. Good to have you with us today. And if I'd known you were in Hamburg, we could have had a coffee on Monday. I was there for meetings on Monday. And then I was over in Bremen as well, and then to sort of hot-footed out again. So, but no, are you based in Hamburg then?
Yes, yeah. Our offices are in Verden, near Bremen.
Hamburg is one of the most beautiful cities in Germany, I think, but that's just my personal opinion, but it's absolutely wonderful. So good to have you all with us. Audience, we love you to get involved. The last session, we had fantastic audience participation. So keep it coming this time around. We have high expectations of you. Wherever your device, somewhere on your device is a Q&A button. So search that out, and that is your way of getting a question direct to our panel. I'll moderate it, and I promise to you that everything that gets put in there gets answered. That's my promise to you as the moderator. You might have a question for one of our panels specifically. You might have a question that you want to put to the whole panel and hear their views across the board, or you might want to comment on what you're hearing so far, or offer maybe a different view or alternative opinion. All is welcome. And feel free to use that Q&A button to your heart's content. Marina, I'm going to kick off with you, if I may, get things going, and hopefully I can talk least, and now all my panelists can talk the most. Marina, you've obviously had exponential growth over the last few years, fantastic coverage for Edit London and success. How have you managed to expand your brand globally through that omnichannel approach?
So taking it right back to the start, when we started, it was all about the education piece. So for those that are not really familiar with the resale market, it's when it comes to Jordans, Nike Dunks, you're buying retail trainers at an extortionate price sometimes. And for people that don't understand the brand or don't understand the market, it's really important that we got that point across and really gave that education piece. So we kind of split it into the strategy into three. So sales, digital marketing, and customer experience. And to begin with, it was all about brand awareness. And Moses, our CEO, who I'd say was the blueprint for our ideal customer, we kind of really pushed brand awareness. And that was doing every and anything to kind of get the brand out there and just get that education piece across. So we did like collaborations with Defected Records. And at the time it didn't necessarily have return on investment on a huge scale, but it was about getting our names in the right places and people hearing more about the Edit London. And then what that meant is we were then on Defected Records website, more people were seeing us and hearing about us. And that started to build up trust. And I think when it comes to asking people to spend a lot of money on trainers or streetwear, they need to be able to trust the brand. And that was the main focus at the start. So we went really hard with brand awareness and just being in the right places at the right time. And Moses was really good at doing that. And then we then focused on digital marketing. And to begin with, it was just Google Ads. And again, it was just getting people seeing the Edit London, our social media, getting across the education piece, growing the brand in terms of internally. And one thing that was really important to us at the start was, and now obviously, is the customer experience. And I think it was really important that we kind of kept the human touch of with the customers. I would spend like hours a day, sometimes at the very start, just speaking to customers, helping them with the trust and kind of explaining the process of the marketplace and what it means to be a marketplace in the particular market of sneakers and streetwear. And we really focused on that, and then building a community of customers that to this day now we can say really worked well, because our returning customer rate, although are a fraction of our total traffic, spend a hell of a lot more than our new customers, because they trust the brand. But in the first year, it was all about brand awareness. And then again, what that meant was, I think the first kind of branch out of the website was Harrods, getting into Harrods. And that was a huge accomplishment for the brand. And it was originally just a trial, a 3-month trial, just to see if it worked. And it did. And we've been there for a while now, a couple of years. And I'd say, like with Harrods, again, it's the customer there, not necessarily, they wouldn't go to Harrods to buy trainers, but they're there to shop. And just having our brand name covered on the men's department, the Edit London, again, it was just that brand awareness to begin with. And we kind of saw it as, if anything, PR. And it just turned out that it actually worked really, really well for us. And we were, smashing our targets, which is why we're still there now. And then that then led to recently opening in Galleries Lafayette, in Doha, and now Harvey Nichols in Riyadh. And then we'll be opening in the Netherlands very, very soon. So although it was kind of split out into 3. So focus on the sales strategy, which to begin with was simply brand awareness. For me as e-com, it was about ensuring the customer journey was as smooth as possible, and using quantitative data to do that, as most people do, just understanding how our customer shops, what they want to see. And when we first started, it was all about just kind of reading the data and almost guessing why certain things were happening, and making judgment calls based on the quantitative data. I think as we've grown, it's now definitely more beneficial, or more, not more, but very beneficial to kind of use qualitative data to get customers, to hear back from them, trust pilots. We call our customers, find out how the experience was, what they want more of, less of. And that then allows us to just keep branching globally in different aspects, whether it's on site or in brick and mortar stores.
Got it. It's such an impressive story, and I'll come back to you shortly as well. But I want to explore some of that kind of brand awareness piece a bit deeper with you as well. But thank you for kicking us off so brilliantly and sharing such great examples. Take a sip of something and take a break, and I'll come back to you shortly. Andrew, as you mentioned, you work with retailers of variable sizes, and I want to kind of focus a little bit towards the smaller indie retailer end. How have they adapted to kind of the marketplace opportunity that's out there now?
Yeah, well, I think it's how they've been adapting to the online opportunity full stop, whether that's creating their own channels, social media, and marketplaces are one of the tools that they've turned to. I think COVID was a catalyst in many ways. I think prior to that, a lot of independent retailers were unsure of the opportunity, were unsure of the technology, and actually probably saw online as a threat more than the opportunity, because our members tend to be physical store operators, and obviously consumer trends were moving towards online purchasing. COVID comes around, shops are closed, and suddenly businesses who can't welcome people into their shops anymore have to find ways of engaging customers, and that's where I think we've seen this change of approach and much more positivity, much more creativity being used by the smaller independent retailer. And this is where marketplaces play a big role for these guys, because for a small business, it's a really steep learning curve to say, well, I'm now going to go from just having a physical store to a more omni-channel approach. They know they need to be there, but they've got this steep learning curve. And mistakes get made along the way. And what a marketplace does, it kind of helps they take some of the risk out from a small retailer's perspective. You know, they're able to get their product made available to consumers around the world effectively. And yes, there's a cost towards that, and there's risk in lost, reduced margin. But they haven't got to work so hard on the search engine optimization, the creation of the brand equity around the marketplace itself, the ability to engage consumers. They've got to be competitive. They've got to have the right products still available, which is what retailing is all about anyway. So marketplaces, they've turned to, the smaller retailers have turned to as an easier way of accessing and moving into the omni-channel arena. On from there, I think some have seen the success of it and then been bolder and braver and probably launched some of their own websites there and tried to sort of open that route to market at the same time. So I think I'm pleased to say there's a recognition that omni-channel marketplaces are beneficial. They should be supportive with their presence on the high street. I don't think the small businesses we have as members, all of whom have premises on high streets, see it as being one or the other necessarily. They see the marketplace and the online opportunity as very much something that would support their high street presence as well. And it's simply a case of the small businesses learning quickly, learning from mistakes, but finding the right marketplace to work with. That's the most important aspect I think we would stress to our people. A lot of marketplaces are very product specific or sector specific, as Marina was saying about hers, and so we're urging the retailer to really understand who their target customer is, and then if they are choosing to work with a marketplace, make sure they're choosing a marketplace that they think will help them find their target customer and new customers hopefully in the process.
Got it. Thank you for that, Andrew. And if you are a smaller retailer and you're currently using marketplaces, please do get involved on the Q&A and tell us what your experience has been like so far, or offer any comment at all or questions on what you're hearing with us so far. Thank you, Andrew. Mark, I'm going to come to you, if I may, please. There are a number of key benefits that large omnichannel retailers can step into and develop in terms of their marketplace operator capabilities. What are they? Could you list some of those key benefits?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Darren. So perhaps first, if we take some perspective over the evolution of the marketplace model, we are right now at the fourth historical stage, trying to simplify a lot. First, 40 years ago, we had the classifieds, we had the crate list generation of the marketplaces, which were not transactional. Then we went into the generalist era, where the eBays and the Amazons came out of disrupting completely the market. A few years ago, we stepped into the services marketplaces, Airbnbs, etc. And right now, we are into this era where, as you have seen in the two previous examples, and as Andrew mentioned, we are more into the vertical era, the vertical of the area of the specialists, where they can see a lot of benefits into developing their marketplaces, which mainly are from omnichannel players. When we look at these guys, and this is where we are included ourselves at Kingfisher, why are we developing these marketplace capabilities? Why are we actually, in fact, evolving to ourselves to evolve marketplaces? So there are several reasons. Number one is because we see clients want choice. Choice is giving that choice to clients is helping us to increase conversion rate from consumers in terms of their purchase online. And marketplaces are a fantastic way for us to be able to deliver more choice to consumers. That's the first thing. Second is because as a consequence of having more choice and delivering more choice to consumers, all these products generate more organic traffic, more consumers. You increase more the number of customers that come. And as they come, they do not only end up buying marketplace third-party products, but they also end up buying first-party products. So it benefits everything that happens, not as you only becoming a marketplace, but for your core business on first-party. At the same time, omnichannel players, they have a huge differentiation versus pure players in terms of developing their marketplace capabilities. You can connect the marketplace with click and collect capabilities in your stores. You can connect the marketplace with also store returns. And you can even think about creating shop-in-shops corners into your stores. This is something which it has not really happened so far yet into the industry, because the original and first marketplace players, most of them, they were pure players. At the same time, marketplace, it helps a lot omnichannel players to test new ranges, test new categories, which it helps a lot into developing what is going to come into the future. And at the same time, in this era of high inflation, everyone fighting for margins, marketplaces also open a completely new window of monetization as an operator. Since the way you monetize a marketplace is completely different by offering services to the sellers that you have into your site. So these will be just a few of the potential benefits of you becoming a marketplace operator.
Got it. And again, similar to as I said before, thank you, by the way, for that, Mark. If you have any comments on what you're hearing about that, or you've seen or heard some benefits of your own that you'd like to share with our audience, please do get involved. I can see a question has come in, so I see it. And once I've done a first round of questions with our panel, I will start to address them. Thank you very much. Keep those questions coming. Christian, I'm coming down under to you, please. There's a phrase that gets bounded around. You're on mute, by the way, just so you're ready to answer when there you go, you're off now.
I'm ready. There we go.
You're ready.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a bit of lag down under. But I'll catch up.
No worries. There's a phrase that gets thrown around: marketplace liquidity. Try saying that fast a few times. What is it, first of all, and how can a marketplace operator increase that so-called marketplace liquidity?
Look, and a great question. I think it's also a question that's paramount to any marketplace operator strategy. So there's a lot of very much smarter phrase definitions of this out there, but I like to think that as simply that your supply is meeting demand. And then when we look at the marketplace model, demand is essentially what customers are searching for, what they're after, what they expect when they come to your platform. And then when we think of supply, that's essentially the products, your sellers, what they're bringing to the platform. And in a perfect scenario, there's an equilibrium between those two. However, it's an ongoing process. I'll use the anecdote of our experiences during COVID. So for context, Catch went down the path of we're going to be a generalist-based marketplace. So we lean more heavily towards that Amazon style of a marketplace model. And so during COVID, in the early stages, we saw the fantastic flywheel effects in the early stages, right? So by that point, we had around 2 million live listings, 2,000 live sellers, and we pretty much had product representation, that supply in most of what you consider as a top level category. And so when we had effects here in terms of lockdown fears, fears of sellouts in stores, we had that panic buying in, for example, toilet paper that's notorious worldwide. We were lucky to leverage that marketplace model. And in turn, our sellers who were listing on there were lucky when everyone turned online to try and get those volumes. And we saw a huge spike and a huge opportunity in categories that at the time we didn't invest as much into, thinking that, well, there's not much presence here locally online. And in turn, that also encouraged through word of mouth, more sellers, more brands, more wholesalers come out of the woodwork and say, hey, well, a classic example was distributors to restaurants saying, look, we've got a lot of wine, we've got a lot of soft drinks. We can't sell them now. We need a quick solution to start moving this volume. Otherwise, we're going out of business. So it opened a lot of conversations and doors with brands that were previously resistant to it. So that was great. We had a lot of supply coming through our channel to meet demand across a whole spectrum. Now, the challenge that eventually presented over time was, and why this is such a critical piece to balance and maintain as an operator, is operational efficiency. So the there's a great podcast out there by a Share Tribe that does it. It's called Two-Sided Marketplace. Highly recommend anyone to listen to it because it delves into this a lot more. But essentially, we were starting to produce a supply well beyond the means that our platform could contain. We couldn't preserve an experience both for sellers and customers to meet those expectations. So when you think about the challenge that would go into a vertical or a particular category, how do you deliver a great experience? How do you back that up with aftercare service, etc.? We didn't have time to refine that, test it, go, yep, this is great to go to market to, and then expand upon. It was rupturing at all the seams. And so in turn, this unique opportunity where we had a majority of our customer base, we had a lot of sellers coming to us and saying, hey, we want to sell online. We've got customers saying, we're now buying everything online because we have to, everything's closed. We started to lose that advantage because we weren't delivering an exceptional experience for both. And that's one of the key levers there for the liquidity model is ultimately, yes, there's marketing levers, there's conversion levers, but it's really that experience. And where at the time we focused on was the customer side because that's the tradition in retail, but we really lapsed and it's critical for any marketplace operator to understand that that's got to be delivered equally to your sellers. What are the tools to help keep them selling well? And if you're a seller looking at a marketplace, what are the tools those marketplaces sell you? As we touched on today, each marketplace has a unique opportunity to say, look, we can help you sell to a segment you're not currently selling to. We can help you bridge that gap. And in turn, I would say there's an expectation, well, what are the tools that help you to continue that liquidity? How are they helping you refine your process? Because the secret to all these channels, like any channel, is, yeah, you set it on, you don't set and forget, you learn, you optimize to get the most out of that channel. And so I think liquidity, to sum it up, it's such a critical aspect in terms of from a marketing, from a sales perspective, from an experience perspective, and also from evolving a marketplace from a smaller model to something high level, because it means that you can exercise restraint to develop within your means.
Got it. Thank you so much. Well, hopefully, audience, that has unpacked marketplace liquidity for you as well. But if you do have any questions to follow on from that, you know what to do. Use that Q&A button. Helene, you've been very patiently sitting there in Hamburg, waiting to offer your insight. So I'm delighted to come to you next. On that omnichannel journey that customers go on, what are the main focal points that retailers or companies should consider to provide that all-important seamless journey?
Yeah, great question. And it is great also to hear the different perspectives here in the panel. So for context, from an advertiser's perspective, and remembering that I come from the data world, the first main point, in my opinion, is the ability to track the consumer touch points, and collect all this data. For example, some data points offline may not be available, right? Or they're still in progress. And it varies so much, guys. I am in a global role. I can see that it varies country by country, retailer by retailer. So a ton of data, but still a lot of blind spots from a truly omnichannel, seamless approach. So there are many companies and startups trying to fill the gaps, especially from an in-store perspective. But let's not forget about, again, offline challenges, the walled gardens, even the digital world. Some big companies, they may not be willing to share data, including marketplaces. On the positive side, though, I see a lot of developments in different countries, still not super consistent across countries. So, for example, a lot of use of Internet of Things, chips, tracking QR codes on packaging, for example. These are things that I start to see as well. Drones. So, for example, in China, I would see even drones trying to help the in-store touch points. Obviously, there's always a question of consumer privacy and the effect of Big Brother is watching you. So things are also evolving on that front. So one side, yes, we want to, understand the data points from our pet parents, but on the other hand, we want to be respectful of their privacy. So there are some other innovative companies that provide data from the marketplace. One example is Putu. I don't know if you guys heard about them, but their methodology captures really well if we have in stock or not. So resellers have in stock or not in certain marketplaces globally. Another thing that I've seen that I hope it will help us brands to provide a better and seamless consumer journey is the use of clean room platforms. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but basically we are going to be able, well, we are able now to collaborate more on a data perspective, but at the same time being a privacy rules compliant, right? GDPR compliant, a must have in Europe. So Amazon Marketing Cloud is a clean room, and they also launched a clean room. And then we can see all the touch points. I know Amazon big, like data, pure player, etc. But they are also including Amazon Go, offline touch points, Twitch, Alexa, and you can also augment your data visibility with third-party providers. However, I believe this is limited to 1P vendors, not the marketplace vendors at this point in time. I think that the marketplace world has the opportunity to share more data, because this is also becoming important. Like if a pet parent, as some of you guys mentioned, decide to buy from a marketplace, which is already part of the journey, we as advertisers would be great to understand, you know, how does this fit into the consumer path to purchase or journey, right? And I wanted to mention here also the super apps in countries like China and some of the developments in the market around the identity resolutions. I don't know if you guys have heard about the joint venture between Deutsche Telekom, Telefonica, Vodafone, and they're trying to help us, right, to be able to capture in a compliant ways all the different touch points. In this case, I would say more on the mobile side. The second point, to be able to provide this seamless experience is internal to companies. If you guys imagine Mars, we are a massive company, right? So working cross-functionally, making sure that the experience it is joined up, meaning sales, so retail media, and marketing, that it is a great point, because sometimes because of the size of the companies, we may have things a little bit siloed. So the touch points from those different functions, because there are other functions even, right? I would argue that supply chain should also be included in this experience to the pet parent, and orchestration, all of this is super important. So I work in marketing, and I do work close with sales, so that we are trying to aim for a more seamless experience to the pet parent. But again, this is something that needs to be consistent, look and feel, messaging, brand guidelines. And there are some other agencies that specialize and help us, right? So from a marketplace perspective, is also important that everything is aligned and consistent, and pet parents understand, oh, this is the brand I would like to buy from. So I think that's it from my side. I hope it all makes sense.
It does make sense indeed. Thank you so much. And a very compelling answer. And if you have any questions to what Helena has just said, you know what to do. Put them into the Q&A button. Talking of Q&A, someone called VIP, thank you, whoever you are, actually asked the question about how can small brands go about finding marketplaces, i.e. with big retailers, it's not always as obvious because their marketplaces are kind of integrated into their main website. And Mark, you very helpfully answered the question in the text, and Andrew has added to it as well. So I won't read it out verbatim now that our panelists have been very efficient and jumped in with two answers to that question. But if you want to ask a question that will bring live to air to our panelists as well, please feel free to do so. But thank you to VIP for asking the question, and thank you to Mark and Andrew for answering it. I'm going to do another round of questions again because time is flying by. We are well over halfway already. So I'm going to come back to you, Marina, if I may. We spoke about the Edit London's journey so far, and obviously that customer engagement and loyalty piece has really been at the heart of some of your success so far. What ways can you obtain and retain, importantly, that customer engagement and loyalty to really maximize the all-important value and profit?
Yeah, so my last question, I touched on brand awareness quite hugely, and what that kind of ties into obtaining and retaining our customers. So although we have opened concessions within like Harrods, Lafayette, what that has done is driven traffic to our online stores, because in Harrods, for example, is a small selection of what we actually hold. So the whole point is driving them to the store. And we have a lot of touch points where we drive traffic to the stores. And we have to also consider that we have kind of our two customers, so the consumer and our sellers. So we created a whole platform at the start for our sellers. And what that means is they go on, upload their product, we authorize, and we sell through our platform. And when we first created the platform, you know, it was very much, upload your product, almost like a eBay, so to speak. But our technology was a lot more, I'd say, intricate. And as time has gone on, we've built upon that, and we've just released a whole new platform, which is amazing. So we have to make sure that we're catering to both of our customers. And to do that, we have to obviously focus on our sellers who bring that product, and that in return obviously drives profit and sales, and making sure that we kind of provide them a seamless service. So it's easy to sign up. They have someone that's their account managers that can help them with getting the process started. They have the app on their phone. So it's the desktop, it's the app. There's many different ways that they can just easily sell their product and kind of have a top tier service. So it's not like you're every day just log in and upload product. You have that service, and it feels you want to then sell with the Edit London, because the experience you have is from the start to finish. It's just continuous and consistent help and support. And then obviously we have our consumers, and without the sellers, we wouldn't have the consumers, and vice versa. So to retain, we have with our social media, we're all very relatable at work, and we want to be relatable to our customers. And again, it is that education piece and building a community. I think we do that very well with our social media. We've kind of affiliate marketing. Again, it's driving that brand awareness, driving that traffic to the stores, and letting each side of our customers know this is what you need, and this is how you can get to what you, whether you're a seller or a consumer. And then I guess once we have the customers on site and they're purchasing or looking and finding out about us, it's then how do we then keep them? And a lot of it is obviously they want to get what they want when they come on, and they get that, but then it's post-purchase. It's, if they don't purchase, what was the reason, and understanding that our customer service team are amazing, and we really do hold that in high regard. I think coming from my retail background, I've been in retail almost all my life, and customer service has always been the most important thing. And I think when you then move that to online, sometimes it can be lost, but it's proven how customer service really does retain our customers. So even if something does go wrong, when you deliver that customer service to a degree of excellence, it really does help, because things
undoubtedly so, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things I guess some retailers struggle with, in the world of brand awareness is particularly if they're a startup or a smaller retailer, is brand awareness sometimes means cost, as in, marketing dollars. Was that something you guys struggled with at the beginning?
At the beginning, obviously, we didn't have a huge budget. And it was just networking and kind of putting yourself in places around people that, can relate. And it's not always about spending money. Yes, of course, to some degree, you do have to spend to get a return. But at the very start, if you don't have that big budget, it really is just about networking and just talking to people. And social media, being online, is just such a huge platform now. You can reach out to any and everyone. And if you know your brand, you know your product, and you're confident in it, it's very easy to start making relationships. And I think that's something that we did really well at the start. And
build those early relationships. Thank you, Marina, for that insight again. Thank you so much. Take a rest and we'll come back to you again. Andrew, coming on to you, sir, that there have been some high profile marketplace failures for sure. It's not always good news, is the reality. But how is the consumer and the retailer best protected if that happens?
Yeah, hi. Not all marketplaces work. We know that, and it's important, therefore, that the protections are in place. Consumers, obviously, they have consumer rights protection and distance selling protection, so they're pretty well catered for. All I would say is that because many of us have grown up, certainly my age anyway, with buying things in store, we almost take it for granted what the consumer rights are, and it's important that today's consumers using online marketplaces really do understand what the rules are for purchasing on that marketplace, especially should it fail as a business. So it's one of awareness, one of a bit of education, I think, that the sectors need to take on board. From a small retailer point of view, there's a couple of challenges, I think, that have come to light more recently. So we've seen a couple of failures actually on the fashion side, down your high street, as a more generic marketplace. And one of the things that came to light when they went into liquidation was that retailers who had sold were waiting for the money to be received. So the money was spent by the consumer, held by the marketplace, and then forwarded onto retailer. As it came into trouble, the money was not forwarded back onto retailer from those sales. So there's, I think, a need to really understand how a marketplace is set up, how the funds are moved from customer to retailer, just to ensure that clarity, just to ensure that transparency, both from a customer and from a retailer perspective. And the other area, I think that again, some of our members have encountered this, and it's an element of trust that's necessary. And I think Christian talked about trust. There's an awful lot of data in a marketplace captured by the owner of that marketplace, who then may use it for their own advantage as well, even though you could argue actually that data is the retailer's data who's on that marketplace. Now, this has been challenged, I think, in Europe, and Amazon have had a challenge around this, and I think the CMA are looking at it in this country as well. But that's an area of protection for the retailer, because that data can be used counterproductively by the marketplace owner to basically replace the retailer's sales in a more profitable way for the marketplace owner themselves. So I think it's not just where the money's going, but it's also where is the data going and what is it being used for.
Thank you, Andrew. Mark, staying with this kind of theme, before you spoke about key benefits, let's talk about key risks now, leading on from what we've just been talking about with Andrew. So what are the key risks from a consumer experience perspective when a retailer decides to become a marketplace operator?
Yes, absolutely. And I think this point comes very appropriate now, because it's the other side of the question from what Andrew was talking, looking at the operator perspective from a marketplace angle. So I would say there are many things that need to be properly managed in order to make sure that an operator who becomes a marketplace, it actually is successful. Number one is you must not underestimate the complexity from a technological and a process perspective. The same processes and the same technology needed to run a first-party business are not working for a third-party partner. And you are willing to invest a big sum of money into investing and reconverting your business, or you need to partner up with good specialists who help you to make that happen. For example, in our case, we are partnering up with a very well-known backend SaaS company that helps us into running the marketplace, which is Miracle. There are several others, and I highly recommend Miracle for anyone in this session thinking into becoming an operator. So that's the one thing that you need to take into account. You need to invest in your platform and processes. Second, if you start enlarging your catalog and from one day to another, you just go from a few hundreds, thousands of SKUs to hundreds of thousands of millions of SKUs, you may lose differentiation. If you're just taking exactly the same sellers and the same SKUs with the same conditions and prices than everyone else is getting in Amazon, eBay, and other marketplaces, you may lose your differentiation as a retailer. And so you need to be very careful on picking up the right categories, the right sellers which are appropriate to you, and the right elements that will make you still different no matter what. Because at the end of the day, if you just end up into the same place on Amazon competing against them like for like, you know that this battle is not going to end up very well. The other thing is that also connected to the fact of increasing your catalog, if you are not able to adapt your customer journey to a larger catalog, you may have issues. You need to improve your search and findability capabilities, auto recommendations, promotions, data capabilities. Otherwise, these big choices I was talking at the beginning, which is a great element for the customer, it may also confuse customers if we don't do it. If we don't do it very well. And perhaps two last points. Number one, the quality. You need to focus on having the right level of quality for your consumers. You need, not all the sellers are actually able to operate at the right level of quality to deliver a good experience to your consumers. You need to protect those consumers. And that requires time and requires people and requires processes in order to be set and to be successful. And perhaps the last point, which it cannot be ignored, is you need the right category and ranging strategy to not generate cannibalization, but to complement your core value proposition. So if you just add SKUs into the same categories you are already selling and generate cannibalization, there is little value there. What you want is to expand. What you want is to complement from where you are right now. So you need to be very smart on how you build this category strategy. There are many more, but that will be a quick summary right now.
No, it's a great summary. Thank you, Mark. And we will come back to you for some closing words towards the end of the session as well. Christian, coming back to you, sir, you've heard a lot about sort of relationships, customer trust, customer engagement, in lots of the content we've heard from our panel today, from the Edit London particularly, really underlining that point about relationship with customer. What is the importance of trust and engagement in building out a two-sided marketplace model?
Look, absolutely, and I'll just tip top to Mark. I think Mark, you've covered almost the first 2 years of marketplace fundamentals, and you're really eloquent answers. So anyone here listening, just go back to that. That covers the first 2 years of pain points, in my opinion. To add as well, we use Miracle. Use Miracle at Catch, and a testament to that software if you are thinking of entering the marketplace space. And that's relevant in terms of this question because we'll touch on it today, but the trust and credibility is ultimately the key lever to focus on if you're operating a marketplace. It is the point of difference to why someone will shop on your marketplace versus Amazon versus the eBays, because it's a key driver to loyalty. I think to bring about a different point that you'll see as a challenge with marketplace in terms of when you start going down the extensive offer range is, it's absolutely amazing in terms of customer acquisition. It's great for potentially re-engaging those already active customers. But if you don't focus on retaining trust, retaining a consistent customer experience, you're essentially throwing that cash away because it becomes a price war. It becomes there's no value proposition there. And from a seller side of the marketplace, that's what you're going after, right? You're thinking like from a customer acquisition point of view or a channel management piece that, okay, this marketplace, they're really credible. People go here. This is a destination. And that's why I want to sell there, because the cost or the effort for me to do that is far more challenging. And that's what I'm going to leverage that channel for. when we look at it from a seller perspective, and this comes back to what I said earlier with the liquidity piece, like trust is trust in the tools, trust in what's being presented. We've looked at the concept of data, and it's such an interesting one because that one that came up all the time, right? Because one of the most powerful tools you can give sellers is data to improve their performance. But there's a big trust barrier already from a marketplace perspective in some marketplaces where they think, oh, we don't need to wear their secrets. It's almost like a misunderstanding. We all want to provide that, or we're not going to trust the seller to do the right thing with that, and it has to be given. And trust is that reciprocal piece where as a marketplace, as soon as you start indicating signs that you don't trust the sellers, in turn they won't. One of the biggest things that caused this inefficiency in the earlier days was being so resistant to trusting our sellers. So we went down this path of over-engineering SLAs, of over-engineering terms and conditions, focusing on the minor aspect, instead of thinking, you know what, realizing that the truth is majority of sellers that come on marketplaces just have a different tier of understanding, of experience, of capabilities, of resources. And so more often than not, when those breaches occurred, or if there were instances we thought were, okay, this is a seller trying to take advantage of customers on the platform, it was really from that. And we also invested time and hours into human count and into head count to manage this. And it was just inefficient, but also it was fragmenting that relationship, fragmenting the engagement. No one likes to feel like they're not trusted. And so the pivotal change point we had was more, okay, how do we invest in tools to incentivize the right behavior, to build trust, to capitalize and promote that trust both sides, but ultimately focus more on education, right, on awareness. So, we built out a tiered system for managing sellers. We leveraged some of the out-of-the-box automation in a platform like Miracle and leverage heavily into that to take this train off our teams, where we look, how do we approach this tiered structure where ultimately, when a seller gets to the end, where if they've fundamentally done something wrong, we're confident, and also the seller can say from an experience point of view, well, we tried, and that there's a fairness to it. And that showed early signs of paying dividends, right? Because you're ultimately going down that path of seller customer success. You're getting an engagement from sellers. They're feeling like they're being treated as a partner. They're being given a tool to help them sell and learn more. As a marketplace, you're learning and going, cool, well, through engagement, through a process that solely gets, like, as an example, cool, walk us through what happened, like what led here, like in a serious breach, like what are you trying to do, replicate, where can we help? We can then learn, how do we develop that platform more? And is that something that's scalable and yield results? And ultimately in return, you deal with that problem of trust for the customer, because your sellers are engaged, they're learning, they're adapting to what you understand from of your customer point of view, and what the levels of trust and value, and passing on to your customers. And I think that's why it's so important. If you can get it right, if you focus on the right levers, and you give trust as well as receiving it, you're essentially killing two birds with one stone.
Got it. Thank you, sir. We are running out of time. Would you believe we've got 6 minutes left of this webinar? And I want to come to you, Helene, for a final question. And other panelists, start thinking about your closing nuggets of wisdom that you're gonna leave with our audience, please. I'm going to come to each of you for 30 seconds of closing words after we've heard from Helene. So, Helene, a final question for you. What is Mars Pet Nutrition's approach to marketplaces in general, and what challenges do you face with those?
Yeah, sure. So, aligned with our purpose of providing better world for pets and pet parents, we also want to make sure that we are out there for the pet parents and consider the purchase channels of their choice. So marketplaces is one of the channels that we are present. As mentioned before, marketplaces play a super large and important role in the path to purchase. If you consider also the traffic that it generates, this is something that we should not ignore. From a global perspective, we focus on building capabilities to ensure that the experience is consistent, that we have our brand guidelines compliant across channels. Sometimes in the marketplace, as challenges, resellers, they may not use the best imagery, for example, and not complying with our brand guidelines. And so, as a brand, we need to be on top of the game, as this could affect negatively our brands. So this is one of the challenges. Other challenges, data availability, as I mentioned before, and accuracy. And I believe Andrew mentioned that the marketplace is using data as advantage to sell their own private label products that would compete with my brands, for example. We know this may happen, but I'm pleased. I don't know if you guys heard about the Digital Markets Act. So hopefully on that front, things will start to be a little bit more balanced and more fair, right? Because we spend so much money on marketplace advertising, and to then having the marketplaces using our data to sell their own private label products. Maybe this is not something that it is a challenge for us. Another one that I wanted to mention from a challenge perspective, we need scalability, right, as a global brand. So this is one of the challenges, and we need to have a proper distribution strategy for expansion through marketplaces profitably, or at least having some ROI from our efforts, right? Because ultimately some marketplaces, they may generate so much traffic that we could see them as a media, almost like a media platform. On the positive side, and I believe Andrew mentioned that as well, the marketplace also helps us as brands to de-risk the Amazon business. And understanding this, we can then adjust our flywheel, our advertiser flywheel, right? Because Amazon will do everything to look for profit, but the marketplace gives us strategic, leverage to play in our favor. So I think that's it from me.
It does summarize very well, but we haven't heard the last of you yet, Helene, because you'll be the very final closing words before we close off the webinar today as well. Don't forget, audience, if you know anyone that wasn't able to make it today, we will be sharing a recording of this webinar. It will be on YouTube and LinkedIn and so on, so you have a great opportunity to catch up with the brilliant content that we've heard over the last hour. It's almost time to say goodbye. I'm going to go around the panel one last time for them to share any closing thoughts, 30 seconds each. Anything you'd like to leave with our audience as kind of closing thoughts, nuggets of wisdom, pearls of wisdom, and so on. Please go ahead. And Marina, we'll start with you.
I would say, I guess, technically we're still a very small business, but we are growing rapidly. So I guess I'd aim it at those that are start-up, smaller. We've been going for 3 years and we've grown massively. And I think the main reasons for that is because we've stayed true to our brand identity. And I think we're very unique as a marketplace, because if you go onto our site, it's a brand, it's a community, and we've homed in on that. Yes, we have multiple sellers, but to our consumers, you are purchased from the Edit London. And we've kind of really tried our best to ensure that the trust that we have gained from our consumers and sellers is ongoing. And I would say, just stay true to your brand identity and know the brand, whatever it may be. And in terms of the omnichannel, just be cohesive across the board, and make sure each touch point represents what it is that you are selling at every turn. So no matter where they come from, whatever touch point they get to, they know exactly where they're purchasing from, and that trust is already built in. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
No, it's a great place to leave it. Staying true is such an important and not always easy thing to do. So it's a great piece of advice. Congrats to you guys at the Edit London. You having a brilliant journey, and it's pretty cool, let's face it, as well. So it's great to see the success of the brand, and thank you very much for giving up your time for us today, Marina. Andrew, closing 30 seconds from you, sir.
Yeah, retailing is about understanding your customers effectively. So when choosing your online marketplace, make sure you choose one that will reach out to the customers you want to reach out to. And online marketplace complements what you're doing in a physical store. Make sure that cohesiveness is aligned.
Very succinct and very compelling. Thank you, sir. And thank you so much for your contributions to the panel today as well. Mark, 30 seconds.
Absolutely. I think marketplace business model cannot be ignored. It represents more than 60% of the overall online transactions. It will continue growing much faster than traditional e-commerce models. Everyone has to take that seriously and play a role within marketplaces. That's my little advice.
It's good advice, not just little advice. So thank you. And then thank you for your terrific contribution and also for typing away there in the background and answering those questions as well. I really appreciate it. Christian, closing words, sir.
So for established businesses looking to open a marketplace, I would encourage it. I think the potential of marketplaces is only being tapped into, and it's definitely the way of the immediate future. I'd say just do so, though, with understanding that I think the barriers to setting it up, while costly, are significantly reduced to how it is. There are more players on the market to do so, to meet different needs, different budgets, and different types of marketplaces. However, definitely go in there with a thorough understanding of what you're getting into. It is quite complex. It is challenging. There will be a lot of assumptions made that we will learn over time, and there's been a lot of great shortcuts provided and information provided today. But more importantly is that the decision to go into a marketplace model is not just slotting onto a new channel into your business. It's ultimately a stepping stone into transforming your entire business model. For those that are looking to sell on marketplaces, I highly encourage it. It's we'll discuss a myriad of points in why it's great from a triability point of view, reaching new customers, reaching new channels. But ultimately, again, it's also a simple way to test and try. For most marketplaces, if you can clean up a spreadsheet, you can get your products listed. You can pull those orders down and you can import it. So try it. And absolutely, once you've tried and established it, continue to optimize it, continue to pay attention to it. The mistake we'd see a lot with sellers is just set and forget. But if you lean into it, if you understand and learn, and you get that feedback from your marketplace, play to its strengths, mitigate its weaknesses, they can be very successful channels for you all.
Good work. Thank you, sir. And give my heartfelt love to Sydney and down under. Thanks for joining us today. Helene, I need to hurry you for the closing words, please. But yes, share us some closing words.
Yeah, marketplace, super important, guys. Let's think about the consumer journey. Also the specific rules within marketplace to take the most advantage. Data always. Ooh, done.
Perfect. What a perfect ending. Thank you, Marina, Andrew, Mark, Christian, Helene, thank you so much. Stellar panel. That wraps up 2 brilliant sessions, 2 brilliant hours for the Retail Bulletin today. As I said, you can catch this content recorded online. We're live in March in central London on the 22nd of March. It's the Omnichannel Futures, our flagship event, is back live in person. You can touch each other, have a cup of coffee and actually talk for real. Yeah, we look forward to bringing that back to you live in central London, 22nd of March. All details on the retailbulletin.com. That's a wrap. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday and hopefully the sunshine where you are. And thank you again to a fantastic panel. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.